Aan die begin van ons program vandag het ek met Johan Fouché gesels. Jana is die woordvoerder van Project Konstantin, Project Konstantin, by die Suid Afrikaner. Ek dink dis 'n oud-polisieman, as ek dit reg het, Pieter Fouché opgerig is. In Oekraïne opgerig is, te midde van die oorlog in die land opgerig is, om mense vasgevange in die wanorde, die chaos, die pyn, die ellende van die oorlog te help, om aan te gee. Ongelooflik. Die mooi van die positiewe krag van die mens. Ek het Pieter Fouché, Piet se storie op Marula Media gelees en kon nie anders as om met bewondering na hierdie man en sy dade te kyk nie. En dan moet ek ook werklik waar sê, hy doen die dinge. En ek het Jana gevra om te kyk of ons kontak met Piet in Oekraïne kan maak. Ons het inderdaad daarin geslaag, want ek sit nou op hierdie oomblik in my virtuele ateljee in 'n Zoom gesprek, 'n Zoom verbinding met Pieter Fouché. Piet, sê hulle. Piet.
Yes.
Mense, kan dit nou.
Pietskiet.
Ja. Welkom by die program.
Dankie meneer, dankie. Dit is 'n eer om hier te wees.
Dit is vir my 'n besondere eer. Ek hoor daar kom so 'n klankie terug.
Verskoon my. Ek gaan my radio neerskakel.
Goed so.
Verskoon my.
Ek sit nou daar en kyk na 'n beeld van Piet. Dit is vir my nogal 'n mooi oomblik, want hy sit daar in die middel van die oorlogsgebied, terrein wat mense ook al noem in Oekraïne. Piet, ja,
Yes,
kom ons begin heel bo. Ek sien nou daar sit jy in 'n uniform.
Yes meneer.
Vertel ons eers, waar sit jy? Waar is jy?
Ek is in my bunker. Ek sal jou gou 'n prentjie van my wys. Dis die twee beddens hierso. Dis my ons vlag wat mense partykeer teken. Dis gele autographs daarso.
Ja.
Ons radiostelsels is almal daar en ons heater, daar's 'n candle op die gang daarso. En daar's oral die plek is daar bokse, kartonne van mediese gereedskap, tourniquette ensovoorts. En ons wapens is een wapen daar en ons is omtrent 2 meter onder die grond. Omtrent 800 meter van die Russiese Federasie. Ongeveer.
Ja.
Net buite Bakhmut, net noord in 'n forest. Hoe sê mense forest in Afrikaans?
Noord van Bakhmut.
Yes,
ek wil net die volgende sê vir ons luisteraars. Piet het nou sy kamera gebruik en die kamera so rondom hom gedraai, so ek kry werklik waar, ja, aan die een kant sou mens byna wil sê 'n skrikwekkende beeld van die realiteit van dit alles. Hier sit hy sit in 'n bunker en ek gaan daarvan uit dat die bunker is eintlik 'n gat gegrou in die grond. Dis die indruk wat ek kry. Ek gaan vir Piet vra om vir my uit te lê. Nommer 2, Piet is 'n Engelsman. So as hy en hy praat 'n baie mooi Afrikaans. So as hy hier en daar vashak, dan gaan ek sommer hier op die program oorskakel na Engels. So, Pete, feel free if you wish to express yourself in English. Ek hou van jou Afrikaans, maar as dit nodig is om oor te skakel, dan doen jy dit dood eenvoudig gewoon. Jy sit daar in 'n bunker. Jy sit in 'n bunker. Buite Bakhmut. Ek het die beelde van Bakhmut gesien. 'n verplitterde dorpie. Vertel net vir ons luisteraars, daai bunker waarvan jy praat, wat is dit? Is er 'n gat in die grond? Wat is dit?
Yes. Ons is in 'n forest. Daar's 'n forest noord van Bakhmut. Ek kan nie die forest se naam sê nie, maar dis op die zero linie, op die en die forest is opgemaak deur pine trees en pynbome en seesand. Hierdie stukkie van die wêreld moet was of 'n desert gewees of onder die water op een of ander tyd, maar dis heel wat seesand en dis baie sag om te grou en 'n bunker is vat byvoorbeeld iets de grootte van 'n domestiese swembad, okay? Kry in die kop 'n prentjie van 'n swembad in jou tuin en grawe jouself daai swembad en dan vat jy bome wat geval is deur al die mortars wat op ons reën elke dag. Hulle teen die bome eerstens vas. Die bome red ons lewens. Die mortars val tussen die bome in en hulle ontplof en die bome val op die grond. Ons tel die bome op en ons sit hulle oor die dek van die swembad. En bo dit sit ons 'n meter van seesand en bo dit nog 'n laar bome en jy bou 3 verdiepings. Dis ongeveer 'n meter en 'n half, 2 meter diep en dit kan 120 mm mortar vang en staan. So jy het jou swembad, so ons is glad met die grond se vlak, maar ons is onder die grond en daar's 'n klein tonneltjie waar ons inkruip aan die agterkant, die verste kant van die enemy is die ingang. So en alles is onder die bome. Ons lê boom, ons gebruik camouflage. Ons sit takke en so voort en blare. En dit lyk soos 'n stukkie van die forest. En ons is onder die grond in en alles is jy kan sien kyk agter my. Dis die muur van die dis bome. Dis bome wat en verby en agter dit is kilometers van seesand.
Weet jy sê nou ons en ek wil baie graag ek wil net eers jouself situeer om dit nou maar so te noem. Jy sê ons. Wie is die ons waarvan jy praat? Jy sit nie daar alleen in 'n gat in die grond nie. Wie is die ons waarvan ons praat?
Die ons is ek werk tesame volunteers soos myself. Dit begin met myself en Tatiana. Tatiana Milad, sy is in Bakhmut gebore. En sy en ek het hierdie projek begin omtrent 'n jaar terug. En dit was haar en ek gewees en 3 ander maatjies. Van Engeland, van Lithuania en van Skotland. En nou die laatste wat ons nou gejoin het is hy's van Germany, Duitsland. So dit hang af met wie ek werk, maar op die oomblik is dit ek en 'n Duitse laitie. Sy naam is Florian. Nou dis hy is op hierdie presies oomblik is hy by die huis. Ek werk alleen op hierdie skof want hy moes Hartkief toe gegaan het om 'n masjien 'n voertuig wat gedoneer is om op te tel. Wat ek hier werk ek alleen.
Ek het nou letterlik duisende vrae wat ek jou wil vra, maar net eers waar jy jouself nou bevind. Jy sê dit is so 2 kilometer, het jy gesê noord van Bakhmut, as ek dit reg het.
Dis omtrent 7 noord van Bakhmut, omtrent 7 tussen 17 kilometer noord van Bakhmut.
En Bakhmut was natuurlik 'n baie groot brandpunt in die oorlog gewees. Wil jy vir ons luisteraars net 'n skets gee van, as ons praat van Bakhmut, waarvan praat ons van Bakhmut, die dorpie, die village, wat jy ook wil noem, in sy huidige situasie?
Bakhmut was dis hoe sê mense, 'n mining town. Bakhmut is das baie minerale in die omgewing om Bakhmut. Bakhmut was 'n ryk dorpie en Bakhmut is ook baie populêr vir Bakhmut se rose, die blomme. En Bakhmut was 'n heel wat oulike dorpie gewees. 70,000 mense het daar op 'n slag gebly. En in die begin van die oorlog was ek gebaseer daarso. Ek en my bataljon, ek en my platoon, hoe sê mens platoon in Afrikaans?
Platoon.
Platoon. Ons was daar vir 'n paar maande. En dis ongelukkig om nou te bewus dat Bakhmut nie meer, it's not there anymore. Daar's niks, daar's nie een gebou nie wat staan nie. Alles is vernietig.
Net dan ons luisteraars weer die lyne is 'n bietjie sleg. Ek sit in gesels met Piet Fouché in Oekraïne. Hy is letterlik 7 kilometers noord van Bakhmut. Die Bakhmut weet ons was waar die groot gevegte plaasgevind het 'n tydjie gelede. Die dorpie is gestroop tot niks. Dis 'n geraamte van 'n dorpie wat op hierdie stadium oorbly. Piet, net vir myself weer om 'n beeld te kry. Hoe veilig is jy waar jy is? Hoe ver is jy van die Russiese troepe af of van die gevegte af? Hoe is jou situasie op die oomblik?
Okay, ons is 800 meters van hulle af en veilig is die antwoord is redelik. En dit hang af. Ek het buite die deur van die bunker, ek het patrone van algemene soorte wat dagliks buite ons bunker val. Helikopter rockets, artillery patrone, grad missiles, minimots, mortars. Hulle val buite die hele dag. As jy buite staan vir langer as 'n paar minute, sal jy dood wees. Ons spandeer die hele tyd in die bunker. Ons gaan buite om te pee, partykeer. Maar gewoonlik doen ons dit binne in die bunker in 'n botteltjie. As jy buite staan vir baie lank, is jy dood, want daar's drone wat rondvlieg die hele tyd van die enemy en hulle bekyk ons die hele tyd.
Net vir ons gaan praat oor die motivasie, waar jy vandaan kom, waarom jy die dinge doen wat jy doen. Vertel ons eers, wat doen jy nou daar? Wat is jou taak?
Ek is 'n medic. Ek is 'n combat medic. My taak is as die soldate gewond is, ek haal hulle uit das 'n span van ons, das ek en ons is volunteers hierso, maar das die medic soldate wat eerstens die soldate gryp uit die trench. Die soldate veg of sit vas in hulle trenches en hulle sit wag daar so. They're on guard duty there permanently. En ons as hulle gewond is, hardloop daar's 'n combat medic wat gekontrak is deur die weermag naby daai soldate en hulle hardloop vorentoe. Hulle trek die soldaat uit, patch hom op so redelik of slaan 'n tourniquet aan sy arm of sy been of wherever. En dan trek hulle die casualty 'n paar honderd meter terug van die lyn af en dan roep ons hulle. Daai selfde tyd dat hulle vorentoe gaan, bel hulle ons vir my. En ons gaan vorentoe en sodra daai ou gereed is om opgetel te word, jaag ons daai in met hoë spoed in ons four-wheel drive. Ons het 'n Mitsubishi Pajero wat groen geverf is. Hy het Kevlar inserts in die binnekant van die masjien om skrapnel op te vang. En ons snatch daai soldaat van die medics af en ons verwyder hom uit die forest uit. Dit is 14 kilometer en dis baie slegte paaie. Die pad is modder en dis swembad van mod in hierdie forest, modder. En so my werk is om te seker maak dat daai combat medics die heeltyd by hulle soldate kan bly. Voor ons hiernatoe gekom het 'n jaar terug, was hulle job, hulle moes daai soldaat die hele pad uitvat van die forest uit na die ambulances wat op die teerpad verwag en hulle sou intussen ongeveer 2 ure weg van die front gewees het. Voor ons hier so aangekom het, was hulle vir elke casualty was hulle 2 uur van die front weg. Ons maak seker dat daai combat medics hulle job daarso kan al die tyd hou en ons kan ons tyd met daai casualty vat en ons kan hom we stabilize him a lot better. We've got they withdraw him a fairly safe distance away from the front, and we've got a little bit of time to stabilize him a bit better, and we've got more equipment here because we're slightly safer where we are, so we've got more equipment to stabilize, and then we evacuate. But sometimes we go forward and do their job too, because sometimes they get inundated and they've got too many casualties, and in the very rare occasions they do call us front, and we go to join them on the front, and it's scary as hell when that happens, but we do it because worth it.
Let me ask you this: are you functioning independently, or how does it work? Because I can't imagine it can only be you and your group. You've got to be connected, I would imagine, somehow to some kind of a platoon, or however it's organized within. I don't know all the military terms that you use, but just give me an idea of how do you fit into the structures of war.
So initially, how we came into this particular came to be here was I was in a reconnaissance platoon in the north of Ukraine, in the Sumy Oblast, the Sumy province, and I was doing reconnaissance missions there, and I was just about to sign a contract with the military to become a contracted soldier in the armed forces of Ukraine. And the day I was going to sign, I got a call from a friend to say, listen, there's a massive shortage of medics and medevac vehicles in Bakhmut. Please come and help us. I drove straight down there the next day. And for 4 months, I was situated just working in and around Bakhmut. And then the battalion I was inserted with, and the way it works is people go in this country, you go on reputation, and battalions will take you into their unit if they hear about you, if you've got a good reputation for being trustworthy, and if you deliver upon your word. And people had heard about me. I've been here since the beginning of the war. And there was a battalion, the National Guard of Ukraine, that was operating in this forest. And when Bakhmut got overrun by the Russians, and some Ukrainian troops withdrew from there slightly, we hit a bit of a quiet phase. And it was at that time that this forest invited us. There was a brigade called the National Guard that invited us in here. And they take you under their wing. They give you their rifles, their radios, their maps, their locations, and you literally go and you insert into the forest in a bunker with them. And they teach you the locations, they teach you the evacuation roads, and they literally just give you all their trust. And and it's a hell of an honor to be given that trust as a civilian, inserted in the army with no paperwork essentially. But it's again, it's about massive trust, and it's about reputation. And Project Konstantin has earned its trust and its reputation. So for essentially, we're one of them. If the shit hits the fan, we will, excuse my French, if things go south, we will be side by side there fighting with them. If we get invaded or if the lines get broken, we will stand up and fight with them. It has happened before in Bakhmut. But we're essentially one of them. We're just without paperwork, and it's because that they have such a desperate need for medics out here, medics with the ability, medic with the desire to help. It's because of that need that they're quite, oftentimes reluctantly, but they're quite willing to accept help such as this from a volunteer as myself.
Yeah. I must say too, for me, it's incredible. It really is almost surreal to talk to you. I think you would appreciate that. I sit in the comfort of my house here in Amsterdam, and you sitting literally in a hole that you dug in the ground.
Yeah,
that you've reinforced with some tree trunks and made your home here. A, how long have you been there? And B, I want to ask you to share with us some of the experiences you've had.
Sure.
It's a devastating war. It's an ugly war. A lot of people are dying. A lot of soldiers are dying. This is not a joke. We're not sitting here and having fun. This is a very, very serious situation in which you find yourself. It's a terrible war. Yes, I'd like you to, how long have you been there? And tell us some of your experiences.
Cool. I arrived here on March the 18th. My first night in Ukraine, was in my first night of combat in Ukraine was a couple of months after I arrived. There was a bit of training to undergo. The first night we arrived in Kharkiv, which was under Russian Russia was trying to overrun Kharkiv at the time. We stopped outside a house in a village where a battalion was holed up, a platoon, sorry. And as soon as we got out the car, my first experience of combat ever, of war, was a Russian tank opening up on us from about 70 meters away. It was in the adjacent street. So if you imagine you've got a street, you've got a row of houses, another row of houses, and then a street. This tank was on the opposite side of the block from us, and he was shooting through the houses. He opened up on us with armor-piercing rounds, and these bullets, these tank rounds, were flying through these houses. At the same time, Russian artillery opened on us from a kilometer away, and all hell broke loose. We got in our cars. Some of us ran for our lives. Some of us got in our cars, and we fled. But that was after a lot of ducking and diving for a few very sketchy minutes. I went, there was a couple of months went by after that. I went on a reconnaissance mission into Severodonetsk when Russia was trying to overrun Severodonetsk. Myself and another 2-3 guys, we did a reconnaissance mission behind enemy lines. We went into about 4 kilometers into Russian territory. We went sneaking around with anti-tank rockets and sniper rifles to ambush a repair team. A Russian tank had broken down. One of the tracks had come off the side, and this tank was left unattended for a few hours. Intelligence told us to please go sit ambush for this tank and wait for the repair crew. And we were waiting in this garden, our weapons trained on this tank, waiting for the repair crew to come back. And a Russian drone flew over us and spotted us. We heard the drone. We crept up. We took cover under the trees, and a couple of minutes later, mortars started landing down on our position. A mortar landed 3 meters from where we were sitting having our lunch, and we've all blasted back into the building. And just 2 minor injuries of shrapnel on 2 of the soldiers, that was my second experience of real combat in Ukraine. We quickly picked up our weapons, blew the tank to smithereens, and ran back to Ukrainian lines for safety. Since I've been in this forest, had many near-death experiences and many combat experiences. Most notably, when Russians try to overrun our lines, they every now and again it's called a DRG group, diversion reconnaissance group, they call them. You've got the lines in the rush. 3 or 4 brave Russians will run at full speed. They'll sprint across the road, which is the zero line at the moment, and they'll try and evade enemy. They'll try and evade our bullets, and they're doing murder missions. They'll sneak from bunker to bunker, literally with grenades and knives, and they'll go around sneaking around and killing as many of us as they can. We've had that happen to us a couple of times, and we've had to go out of our bunkers at night time. And us and our fellow soldiers have literally sitting guard out there. And next thing, all hell breaks loose in the dead of night. You can't see your hand in front of your face, and there's just fire erupting everywhere. And then after a few very tense moments, you get it on the radio: all enemy dead, or 2 have been captured. And then one story I really want to relate to you, which is my most harrowing. If we're talking about near-death experiences, this is probably my most harrowing. Tatiana and I, we parked our vehicle on the one dirt track one day, and she went to one bunker and I went to another. She made it into that bunker, but I needed to go back to the vehicle to get a chainsaw. And as I got out the car to come back to the bunker, Grad missiles, they started firing over us, and 5 Grad missiles with cluster munitions dropped onto our position. And a cluster bomb contains about 30 to 40 grenades, and so this missile flows over, opens its bomb bay, and drops lots of little grenades all over you. So 100 grenades landed right on the position where we stopped the car. And I just lay down in the ground and I put my fingers in my ears, open my mouth. This is a trick that they teach you in the police. If a grenade's going to go off, that your station tube doesn't get burst, that you don't lose your hearing. And I just screamed at the top of my lungs, "The Lord is my refuge, the Lord is my refuge," and expected all my limbs and expected to be blown to smithereens. But God kept me safe that day. And Tatiana was watching me there was a drone outside. Tatiana was watching me from inside the bunker, and they couldn't see the ground from all the explosions that were going on around there. Trees were falling left, right, and center. It was absolute chaos. And then, of course, Johan, there's all the countless times that we've been involved in rescuing soldiers from here. There is a massive. It's got to be God's gift. It's written in the Bible, I think, somewhere. Somewhere it's written. There's no greater gift than to offer your life or than to save another life of a human being. And we've been so privileged to be able to help these heroes, these brave soldiers who have come here. And some of them are dentists, some of them were architects, some of them were librarians, and they've been thrust into the war. Some with no experience, most of them with no experience. 3 weeks training, some of them have had. And they come out here and they thrust into the zero line and unleashed into utter hell. And then they get an arm blown off or a leg blown off, or they've got a hole through their chest. And you got this guy asking you in broken English, or me in my broken Ukrainian, am I going to live? Am I going to see my wife and child tomorrow? And to be able to look back in his eyes after you've sealed his tourniquet and after you've stopped the arterial bleeding, or after you've applied a chest seal, or after you've rescued him from the brink of hypothermia or death by hypothermia, to be able to look into his eyes and say, "Yes, son, you're going to live." It's this has happened countless times, and after being involved in combat and reconnaissance and all sorts of things, being a medic in Ukraine is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, and I don't think I could ever do anything else.
It's clear to me. It's something very personal for you. It's hard for me to try to put myself in that space where you find yourself. I read about the war in the papers. I see the kind of censored version of it on television news. I engage myself in the discussions about the politics of this war in a very abstract way.
Yeah.
What I want to know from you is, just as a man, and you were a policeman in South Africa, I get, so you've got policing background, but essentially not soldiering experience.
Yes.
You find yourself in this situation. There must be something that happens to you. I want to talk about motivation as well, but before I get to motivation, I want to try to get into your head and understand what happens to a man when he puts behind him the comfort of his home and the comfort of his daily existence, be it in London or back in South Africa, and you suddenly find yourself in a land that is not your land, a country that is not your country, amidst explosions, bombs, devastation, death, destruction. What happens to you, and what drives you?
Gosh. Let me get to the easy answer first. What drives me is the simplest way I can answer it. It's the right thing to do. It's absolutely the right thing to do. There should be a lot more people here doing the same thing, in my opinion. It's the right thing to do, Johan. It's the first war. I'm 48 years old. It's the first war I've ever known about in the world that hasn't been disgustingly motivated by oil or some other sick political agenda. This is a pure evil invasion based upon hate and jealousy and greed of the Russian Federation. So it was a natural progression, an easy progression for me to come here. What drives me is my undying, undeniable love for my daughter, and that when you have a child and you know how precious your child is, and to see images of there's one image that I'll never ever forget. This mother was running across the road with her 11-year-old child in a Russian BTR, which is a tracked. It's basically a small tank. It fires a 30mm round. The whole cartridge is the size of my forearm. It's a beast of a weapon. The bullet is the size of my pointed hand. It's a chunk of metal, about 700 grams in weight, with an explosive tip. And this mother's running across the road, and she's running with her daughter. The mother and the grandparents have been vaporized already, and they're just about to get out of danger. And the mother turns around to see her daughter's turned. She's dragging a dead weight now all of a sudden. And she turns around, and her daughter is minus her head. This bloody Russian BTR, one of the bullets connected with her daughter's head and just vaporized it. And this was going on all over Ukraine, and it still does. And that pain and that desire to protect and help other parents to not have that, not experience that. My love for my child is what triggered me to come here. And what happens to a man, to answer the second part of your question, what happens to me is it certainly changes. It has changed me a whole degree. Johan, I've become so focused, and there is a brotherhood and a bond and an energy that, you read about it in Vietnam War stories and books, and people that come back and they say you can't ever leave the war behind, and going back to civilian life is just not the same. And I certainly get that, because people that haven't been here haven't experienced this. You won't understand it. Everything is black and white here. It's life. It's either death or it's your comradeship. You've got your brothers backing you up, and everybody counting on each other, and the safety and the knowledge that knowing that each of your friends is okay every single minute, that matters so much. It is so important. Every hour the radio checks go out, and they check all the positions. And when every radio come back, the 10 minutes, every single hour, every hour on the hour, these radio checks go out. And there are sometimes very tense seconds when the operator on the radio is calling the positions' names and asking, Tokyo, are you okay? Give me an answer. Tokyo, are you there? Give me an answer. And the seconds are ticking by, and eventually the guy wakes up and he goes, Tokyo, I'm still here. Johan, it's hard to describe, man, but it's these guys are desperate, and I want to just give everything that I can to help this country. And Project Konstantin and myself are just devoted to this cause, because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. After witnessing so many atrocities, I mean, families raped and beaten just for being Ukrainian. Having families being tied up and watch their families to be gang raped, and then tying those same gang raped individuals of the family to trees and tanks and tearing them apart and leaving their entrails for the rest of the village to see. I've seen this stuff, Johan. It is shocking. There is nothing other than sick, disgusting, satanic evil on the other side of that zero line. And I will give my life in defense of the freedom of this country. And it focuses you as an individual, as a person. You become so laser focused. Every day I'm trying to think of more ways and more. I'm trying to cook up new ideas, what's the word? Come up with new ideas, how to help this place, how to get more vehicles to them, how to get more. They need technical equipment, and they need people with experience. This is what they desperately need most. And every day I'm trying to find new ways to do fundraising, to buy more vehicles, and to try and encourage new people to come here. A dream of mine would be to get Kufut to come out here. Do you remember the old Kufut days? Yep. Yeah. 3-2 Battalion. They are special forces books written around the world based upon the tactics invented by Kufut. Those guys were legendary. If they could come out here and teach a few of these brigades how to do warfare, man, we could close this war in a few months, I'm sure. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. I may have danced around there, but
it does, but not fully, because I'm not there.
Please,
I am not experiencing it. I can only and I can feel. I don't want to over dramatize things, but I really feel your heart. I feel your passion. I feel your drive. I spoke to Jana, and she told me also about the little things, the softer edge of things, the beautiful part of it. Raising funds and things like that to literally get sweeties and chocolates to children.
Yeah.
So in this kind of, and Conrad's words come to my mind, the horror, and then this exquisite something that is help and support and humanity. And I can imagine it's intoxicating in a certain way, I would imagine. I don't know if I'm using the word intoxicated in the correct way now.
It's a brilliant word.
Let me ask you this. What has happened to your sanity? And as a human being, just because I don't want to talk about the details of the war, who's winning and who's losing and the politics of it, but just you as a human being now, will you ever be the same person again, or have you been touched by this and will be touched by this for the rest of your life?
I will absolutely be the same person again. And I'll tell you one word: Jesus. I prayed for 8 years. And for 8 years, I've been without my family. And I prayed for those 8 years for God to give me direction and purpose. Yeah. And he brought me to Ukraine. And my instinct to help my fellow man, because running around PE as a cop in the flying squad was one of my greatest pleasure, was rescuing people in trouble. And I got a massive reward out of that, out of rescuing somebody from near-death experience, and the gratitude in their eyes, and snatching somebody from the grip of fear. And I'll never forget that. And when Ukraine happened, I realized, I can do that again. And so, yes, Johan, so I've often thought about this question. I've compared myself to friends and other people that I've heard about that have been involved in other wars, and they are all traumatized by the things that they've done. And I think it's probably because they all know in the back of their mind that they were sent there. I'm talking about Iraq and places like that, that they were sent there under the guise of terrorism, but it was actually a lie about oil, you know? So people went there and committed the most horrendous acts, thinking or believing at the time that they were doing just things, but it was actually just for greed. And that would be a very haunting thing to have to live with. This, on the other hand, Johan, is complete self-defense of a nation. And so will I be the same person? Absolutely. What I'm doing here is completely altruistic. I'm literally helping humans fighting for survival, for freedom. I'm helping those humans to stay alive. So it's, and sometimes things get dirty and sometimes we have to do the other things, but it hasn't fazed me, and God keeps on guiding me and protecting me and leading me and taking me deeper and deeper and deeper into this war. Every month that goes by, my mandate increases. I get given more responsibilities. I get asked to do bigger and more, a broader range of things, if you like, by the military. And it's because every day I pray to God to ask him, give me direction, give good people into my life, and make me more effective than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, Johan, I don't feel this is gonna, this has showed me that the one thing this has shown me, Johan, is that the greatest gift any person can give another human being is helping that human to improve their lives. That's the greatest reward on earth, is helping another human to improve their life. Yeah. So, and I will continue to do that after the war. I'll help rebuild this country. I'm a construction carpenter by trade, so I'm looking forward to the end of the war and start rebuilding these houses. Yeah.
The gift of giving. I'm going to ask you a question once again, which might be a little bit out of place. You're not there because you have to be there. That's why I'm asking you this question. You do this voluntarily. You've decided this yourself. There's something in yourself that has driven you and taken you to that part of the world and to do what you do, and you do it with absolute commitment and passion, and one can see that. What is it that you can feed on? That can
What is it that I can?
can feed on, that can nurture you, that keeps you alive, that keeps you going? What are the rewards that makes you get up and carry on doing what you're doing?
Knowing that I'm doing God's work is the biggest one. Because if the amount of success and the amount of integration that I've had in the military is unparalleled. I mean, where I am, the access I've got to the entire, just being given free rein to run around this combat zone, being given the access that I've got to be entrusted into this very sacred place, tells me that I've been brought here by God. The rewards are knowing that I'm serving my fellow man, and that I'm teaching other people. That I'm trying to be a trailblazer as well, Johan. I'm trying to show the rest of the world ways. I'm trying to show the rest of the volunteers in Ukraine how to help people, how to give without expecting a return, how to give without expecting thanks, how to give without expecting a reward or a medal. Gosh, Johan, I've never really thought about this question. I just know that I'm doing the right thing, Johan, because, okay, so I actually can't give you a very clear, definitive answer today. And it's just escaped me there for a few minutes. The absolute awesome love and the look of awe and the look of disbelief in each of these soldiers' faces when you go around meeting them and they discover, what? You're from South Africa? Hold on. So you're not from England, you're from South Africa? What the hell are you doing in my country? You're a volunteer, you don't have a salary, you don't have a contract, and you're here with us on this. How many soldiers have you rescued? How many of my brothers are alive because of you? The look in their eyes, Johan, and the warm embrace and the fellowship and the love and the deep handshakes and the deep, powerful hugs. That's where it is at. That is every day a massive, massive, massive reward. Watching. I mean, the other day I was sitting in the bunker and I heard on the radio, casualty. They called the control room, which is 50 meters away from me in another bunker. Somebody shouted it, control, casualty, and I could hear footsteps running outside, and there's a guy with his arm half blown off, and another one with a hole in his leg. They were walking just outside the bunker here, and a mortar landed, and I walk outside, and everybody's just standing there looking, because blood and severe injuries are quite terrifying to see, and I just bailed in there, and my instinct and my training and my over, and I slapped a couple of tourniquets on, and the commander was standing over my shoulder, and he was watching the whole thing. And since that moment, Johan, everywhere I walk in this area, just the love and the respect and the deep, powerful, meaningful handshakes and the looks of appreciation and acknowledgement and respect and sincere gratitude are very tangible, incredibly tangible. You can cut it with a knife. And constantly getting invited over to the other bunkers for tea and cake and treats and
imagine. Yeah.
And immense love. Yeah. And immense love and gratitude, Johan.
Yeah.
By a country that has been so hurt.
Yeah. You've given content to the question.
Yeah.
I understand. I can really understand and relate to it. We're running out of time. I think we're gonna arrange to talk again. But be it as it may. At the end of the day, there is also just the reality of it all. Ukraine may not win this war.
Yeah.
There might come a day, and I'm following the war not as well as you do from the inside, but I do follow it from the outside.
Johan, I've got the medic on the front is calling me. I might have a casualty. I've got to call you back.
Okay, perfectly fine. We'll talk again. Okay, aan ons luisteraars hier net baie vinnig, dan gaan ons maar kyk wat gaan ons doen met hierdie gesprek. Dit blyk dat Pieter Fouché het nou so pas 'n oproep gekry van sy kollegas. Ek kan nie presies uitmaak wat daar nou op die agtergrond gebeur nie, maar hoe ook al, ons is nog op lyn met mekaar. Piet, can you still hear me? En daar val, dit lyk my gaan Piet nou wegval. Ja, dit was Piet Fouché. Ja, hier kom hy weer. Ja. Ups. En nou is die beeld weer 'n keer weg. Ons gaan kyk wat gebeur. Ja, dit is
Johan?
Ja, Piet, ek hoor jou nog.
Yes, Johan. Ek moet vlieg. There's two casualties waiting down the road for me.
Baie sukses, Piet. Ons gesels weer. Ek maak kontak met jou. Ons gesels weer. Baie dankie. Sterkte. Alles van die beste.
Praat later. Cheers.
Bye.
God bless you. Sorry.
Dankie, dit was Piet Fouché. En nou die lyne nog nie heeltemal weggeval nie. Ja. Ek het eintlik nie woorde nie. Ek sal moet eerlikwaar sê, ek weet nie welke kant toe nie. Ek gaan weer die moeite doen vir ons luisteraars, vir diegene wat belangstel om weer kontak te maak met Piet Fouché. Jy luister na AllesAfrikaans. Dit is Johan Allers hier.